Good morning, students of Conversation 2. This is another early morning edition, so you may notice my voice is a little bit gravelier than usual. I also managed to get a haircut yesterday, so hopefully my appearance has improved slightly. This chapter is chapter 9, and some students are still handing in the assignments. That's fine. I don't mind, but you don't have to because they're not for credit right now. It's just a good habit for your study purposes. So the chapter 9 is called What Have You Been Doing? It talks about averages and what most people like to do. Often I talk about this topic. At the beginning of introducing this topic, I mention, the idea of being normal and what average really means. You can say in any population, you can look for the person that's the average height, and you can look for the person with the average weight and the appearance, the nose shape and everything. There was an interesting study done in the United Kingdom where they found, the median numbers for this person, the height, the weight, the hair color, the eye color, the shape of the face and everything, the age and everything. And they searched for the person that would fit that criteria. And out of the millions and millions of people they searched through, they were unable to find a person that perfectly matched those numbers, those measurements. So it just goes to show you that an average is just a middle ground between a group of people, and you're always going to have a variety of people, and no one's going to fit something exactly. So sometimes people get a little bit too hung up on the idea of being normal, and it causes people stress too, that they don't want to be different because that will make them stand out and be vulnerable to people's prejudices or dislike. So it's good to be different. So this chapter is not about trying to be normal. It's just about averages to figure out, what happens. Not so you can be better or worse than someone, like, on a test. It's just to figure out what the typical lifestyle or the typical, experience of life and culture is. So they just have a bunch of things like statistics that are useful. For example, how many hours you work in a week. If you work more hours than usual, maybe you're making more money, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're working too much. Maybe you want more free time, or maybe maybe the average is too high, and so everybody's tired and stressed, and this is not good for you. In my other class, we talk about the Industrial Revolution, and that's what one of the problems with the Industrial Revolution is people go from working, something like 30 to 40 hours a week at their homes. And in addition, they have to take care of their houses and do other things, which we don't really count. But in terms of labor for your job, for earnings, a person in an English city would have worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, which you're getting closer to 60 or 70 hours a week. So in some cases, people who their parents worked on a small plot of land as an independent farmer, if they moved to the city, they were working nearly twice as many work hours in conditions that were much worse as well. So these are the things that we're looking at this week. In the little tooltip box on the top there, it says we're going to talk about the average person. This is what our purpose is this week. We want to discuss these ideas in relation to time, losing time, wasting time, spending and passing the time. It looks like I forgot one. Stick it up there. I want to distinguish between these terms because we use them all the time, and sometimes we use them incorrectly just because they're kind of similar. And let's see. You need to describe approximate and precise times, but I think all of you can do that. And using the present perfect continuous is one way to do that. When you say, when somebody asks you a question, what have you been doing? And you answer them, I have been studying English, or I have been watching Netflix. So that's where the That's when the present continuous comes in, present perfect continuous comes in, is when you're talking about something that's ongoing and it was happening in the past, and up until the moment, it's still happening. Then you say, I have been, okay? I think I mentioned in one of my classes the tendency for people, for Koreans in particular, to use until now, which is possible, but there is a grammatical form for this, which is called the present perfect continuous, so that's the occasion when you should be using it. You don't have to say, I studied English until now. You can say, I have been studying English, and it sounds much more appealing to somebody who has grown up using the English tenses with more facility, I guess. So, spending time. Right now, obviously, I'm working. So, when you're working, we consider that time well spent. You're earning money, you're doing things that you're instructed to do. It's organized by itself. This is what I said by organizing. If you're a valuable worker on your team, or you have your own business, or if you're a student, or you're in an institution, you have certain responsibilities. And one of the things that you rapidly learn to do is to make use of your time and be more efficient, which is something I wrote down here. If you are able to do that, you can save time. You can do things in a shorter amount of time, and then if your boss is nice, you can go home early, or you can have some time off. But essentially, you can handle all the work that you're given, because in some cases, you're given too much work. I'm not going to bellyache or whine about my semester, but quite frankly, this was the worst semester for me to get this format, because I have 7 classes and 6 of them are different. So as you know, on Conversation 1, I have 2 classes, so I am able to just do 1 video lecture per week for that class. But my 3 credit classes, I'm doing 2 or 3 video lectures for them, and I have Conversation 1, Conversation 2, Conversation 3, and Composition 1, so I have 6 unique classes. So that's not great. In some cases, professors have 3 or 4 classes, or they have 2 or 3 classes, or they have 4 classes with not as much variety. I have a friend of mine who teaches at KAIST, and he has 5 Composition 1 classes. Let that sink in. So I do 10 video lectures a week, about, sometimes more, and he does 1. So he's in a totally different universe than me. Do I need to organize my time? Yes. Am I not perfect at it? Yes. This weekend I had a lot of trouble. That's why I'm not doing this at night. I'm doing it this morning, because there was a delay. One of the things that happened, though, was the YouTube format changed, so there's an extra step in publishing the videos. So now I've figured it out, but actually I was uploading videos and they were not appearing in public. So the videos they were uploaded to the server, but none of you could see them. So if you're in another class and you were wondering what was going on, they were uploaded several days ago. They just didn't get finalized and published. So that wasted a lot of time. And there's a learning curve there, so I was trying to figure out how YouTube decided to do their new format, but now it's been figured out. So I lost some time there. That's what losing time means, just procrastinating, essentially. If you're losing time, that means there's a deadline coming, or something that has to be done, and you're just not doing anything productive. That's when we say you're losing time, right? If it's something that's necessary, it's not losing time. If you're waiting for something, that's not losing time. It's when there's some pressure for you to finish something. Sorry, my nose is itchy. I know we're not supposed to touch our face these days, but I did wash my hands, so I should be okay. So losing time means that. Wasting time is any time. Losing time means there's something coming, there's some sort of pressure or deadline. Wasting time just means you're doing something that really has no value to it. Like if all day you just watch TV, or you play with your phone, right? Or you just, instead of being productive, instead of building things or making things or studying things or reading or anything that would add to your skills or the development of your ability, you don't do those things. You just eat ice cream and play your favorite game or sleep or whatever. Okay, that's what I would consider wasting time. Okay, now you got losing, deadline coming, not using your time wisely, wasting, not using your time wisely in general. Killing time means that you have extra time, and you want to get rid of the time because you're waiting for the time to pass and you have nothing to do. This is the situation where I distinguish between wasting and killing, is because you have no choice. Like, it's like when you're sitting at the airport and you got 2 hours until your flight, right? You can walk around looking at all the duty-free shopping, and you can send your money. You can spend your money if you want, or you can sit on a bench. You can take a nap. You can get a snack, but you just gotta wait for that 2 hours to happen. You don't have very many options. You might pull out your phone and chat with your friend or look at stuff on social media. You could pull out your laptop and do your work, but you might just be a bit tired. And I don't really like to work in airports. I don't know about you. It's just not a good place to study. It's a kind of tiring experience. So you might just want to do anything that makes the time go faster. And that's where the killing comes from, because the point of the idiom is to just get rid of the time. You don't need it. You just want to kill it. So in order to kill it, you do something entertaining, or you do something that just makes the time faster. Like you take a nap and then you wake up and the time is gone, right? That's one of probably the most efficient means to kill time, is just if you're able to take a nap easily. I personally have trouble sleeping, but if you're the type of person who lays down and for 5 minutes later you're fast asleep, and 2 hours later you wake up fresh, I consider that a very valuable skill, perhaps a genetic one. So you're lucky. That's the best way of killing time. Otherwise, you're at the bus stop and you just play a puzzle game or just do something on your phone, and then the time goes away. All right, so then it comes into managing, organizing, and scheduling, and these are all related words where you're looking at what the amount of time that you have, and you're saying, this is how much time I have, and this is what I have to get done. And this is the way, as you get older, you feel like you start to take control of your life. And I think in university, this is tougher than it looks. I know you set up your schedule for your classes and everything, and then you might get a part-time job, and then you might get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You have to fit that in, and then you have to, maybe go to your hometown and see your parents, that kind of stuff. And you start to have a balance. When I was a freshman, I basically had none of those things. When I was a freshman, I was just Jeremy and his classes in the dormitory. And the dormitory was 24 hours. It's open 24 hours. Food was closed from 3 a.m. until 7. But other than that, my schedule got completely messed up because I went to most of my classes, but I skipped some. I did my homework whenever I wanted. I stayed up all night. I ate at 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't eat breakfast some days. My schedule got completely messed up. And so when I had a project or I had something that I needed to do, I had a lot of flexibility, but it wasn't really easy to get things. It wasn't easy to switch the schedule from this completely chaotic schedule to suddenly, okay, now it's exams. Now I have to study every day and I need to do this, go to the library at this time, I should meet my professor at this time and need to get some books or whatever. Suddenly switching into this, productive studying schedule to prepare for exams, it just didn't happen. So my grades, as a consequence, were pretty poor. So all of these skills, you should be developing them. You should be working on them, and you should realize that if you create a schedule that's good, that's comfortable for you, it's a benefit. It's not a burden. It's not going to stress you out. it's probably going to give you an advantage. And as a consequence, your grades are going to see an improvement, and probably your health is going to see. You're going to sleep better, you're going to have more energy, and it's going to feel like you actually have more time, not less. Okay, so at the end there, we have punctuality, multitasking, and efficiency. Well, punctuality has some real benefits. It's another part of planning and managing. If you allow yourself a little bit of extra time. My mother always said, just arrive at least 5 minutes early. And I do. If you're one of my students, I might come in exactly on the right time. I might come in exactly on the hour, which you don't know because we haven't been in class. But I normally come in, if it's a 12 o'clock class, I come in at 11:59. But that's because I was in my office for 10 minutes first. So I get there at 11:50, and my office is literally down the hall from the class. So I go to my class, I gather my stuff, and then when the clock is 11:57, I walk up my door, I lock my door, and I go down the hallway, and I arrive precisely on time. Obviously, the main advantage of punctuality is you're not losing time. If you're supposed to be there at 12 o'clock and you're there at 12:10, then you just deleted 10 minutes from the class. So that's the first thing. But it just represents, punctuality represents an attitude, right? It's manners, but the point of the manners is that if you come on time and you're not late, it means you value the class, you value the professor's time, and the professor values your time. It's not because everybody wants to study an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because usually we don't. But if that 5 or 10 minutes is at the end of the class, then the professor lets you go, which lots of professors do, including me. But it's better for us to start on time and then to end the class 5 or 10 minutes early. That gives me flexibility in exactly how long the lecture is, for one thing, but that just allows me to seem like I'm being generous, not being lazy. So it's all about impressions there. When you're being punctual, that's very important. When you go to work, when you have a job interview, all these things, punctuality is very important, and you shouldn't underestimate it. Things happen. Car accidents happen, bad traffic happens. You forget something important and you have to go back for it. Someone gets sick in your family. There's all kinds of things that happen. But that should rarely happen. The likelihood of it happening is low, and you should control that situation as much as you can. Multitasking is one of the things that I love to do. I do it all the time. For the last 2 years, I have all these books here, but I don't get a lot of time to just sit and read. And if I do have that time, especially during the semester, during the winter and summer, I read a lot more. But during the semester, I just don't have time to sit quietly in the evening and read a book. My house is too noisy, my kids don't allow it, and I have too much work. But I can't let go of my hobby because I love my books. So I downloaded an app called audible.com, and they have audiobooks. So what I do, if you ever see me walking around on campus or driving somewhere with the window down, it sounds like I'm listening to the radio. But what I'm actually doing is listening to a book. Some of these books here, I've read the hard copy and I listen to them again. It helps you just absorb the material, and it helps you, if you're teaching on a book and you read it over, listening to it again will just, maybe the parts that you feel need to be emphasized will sink in a little better so you can explain them. So some of these books I've listened to more than once, 2 or 3 times. And I listen to them while I'm driving, while I'm walking between classes, while I'm resting, waiting at the bus stop, while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning. I listen to them everywhere. And that is what multitasking should be. Sometimes you try to do too much. The real danger of multitasking is to reduce your efficiency. So if you are listening to an audiobook and you're cooking and cleaning, and taking care of your kids, for example, at the same time as I'm doing, you might end up, unfortunately, not paying attention to the audiobook, not cleaning very carefully, and arguing with your kids because they're being bad, and then burning the food. So what have I done here? I've done 4 things really badly. So you don't want to multitask so much that each action detracts from the quality of the other. So there's a certain amount of attention that has to be given to some things. Some things are not made for multitasking. My personal opinion is television is made for multitasking. I don't sit and watch TV. I always do something else. In fact, when I'm watching hockey, which is just one example of a program you can watch, when I watch sports, especially hockey, I usually grade. I usually grade people's assignments because I'm only half paying attention to the hockey, and I don't care if I miss a small play. And when they score a goal, I look up and I try and catch the goal, and I stop my grading and I watch the goal, and then I'm either happy or sad depending on which team scored, and then I go back to my work. I like to listen to the radio in the background or have music when I'm doing work too. So maybe that's something that you like to do also. So I would like you to talk. You can talk about yourself and how you spend your time, but you're certainly allowed to do what the textbook does, which would be even better, is if you talk about the habits of people. In the textbook, it's America. They're talking about America, how many hours people watch TV, if you can look up those kind of statistics, those kind of averages from your own country, it's fine. Try and figure out some information about what the average person does in China, Korea, Canada, America, Uzbekistan, Bangladesh, doesn't matter. How they spend their time, whether it's this amount of cooking or this amount of going on public transportation, and then make a little bit of a comparison to yourself. And you can say, well, this is exactly what I do, so I guess I'm an average Uzbek or whatever. Or maybe you're completely different because you're an international student, and maybe you notice the way Korean things do things, and you can reflect on how you like to do things too. Now, I'm not asking for stereotypes here. I'm looking for statistics. So you need to get the information somewhere where somebody has reported the fact that, the average Korean student plays 5 hours of computer games a day, and you don't play any. Something like that. Okay? So you can talk about your own handling of time, and then you can juxtapose it. You can look at the similarities and differences between you and the population, the general population that you're talking about, the average person in the population that you choose. Okay? And again, you don't have to hand in the assignments. There is a possibility we might try a Zoom meeting, but with 20 people in a class, it's hard to do that. So for now, we did do a Zoom meeting in the Global Business Communication class, and people liked it, but for the most part, people were supportive of the YouTube lecture format, and so we'll continue that here too. So for now, all you have to do is keep watching these lectures and follow in the textbook. Once the textbook is over, which is next week, I'm going to ask you to do a presentation, which, since we don't have classrooms, you will have to do it by recording. And that information will be in next week's lecture summary, so we'll talk about that soon. But there will have to be a presentation because we need some more material for me to evaluate your grade. Okay? So that is all for today. This week, just keep up on the video lecture and read your textbook, and then next week more stuff will come as we finish the textbook, chapter 10. That's it. Have a good day, and talk to you next time.